Welcome to Nick Saban Junior Sports Talk TV. Thank y'all for tuning in. Hey, I appreciate y'all. Sorry that we're a little late. I had a little things held up today. But for the ones that tune in, you know how I like to do. I like to talk about everybody's football team, and we're having media days. So right now we're about to talk a little bit about Auburn's media day, and I got my guy Jeremy on. Actually better from Twitter. This dude, man, this dude puts in a lot of work, man, and I'm gonna put his Twitter handle out there so y'all can go follow him. But he puts in a lot of work. He puts in a lot of work on Twitter, but Jeremy, man, thank you for coming on with me. How have you been doing today?
Man, I'm doing good, doing good. Just got through talking to an A&M guy that's got some A&M connections, and you know, I'll just go ahead and say this: them A&M fans are anxious to at least see what they're gonna put on the field. They kind of believing in that Bobby Petrino stuff.
Yeah, I was on a watcher. Actually, I had followed him. He followed me back, and I DM'd him too, trying to get him to come on eventually too. Cause yeah, I want to talk some A&M stuff too. But let me. I want to know your overall thoughts of the media day, man. What Hugh Freeze was saying and some of the guys were saying. Want to get
Yeah,
your overall thoughts.
yeah. I know at the first part of the week, I kind of listened in, to like Brian Kelly. He was the one that really kind of stood out first. He came with a business approach.
Hmm.
He was very, casual about, how he was talking. Then, guy like Kirby Smart, he was asked about the, schedule, and everybody talks about, oh, the SEC schedule is weak, theirs is, and his response was, well, come play it then if you think it's so weak. So, I like that response. I thought that was a good answer. And then like Nick Saban, he came on yesterday, and I think he handled his as long as he could basically go. His tactic is trying to be long-witted to kind of shorten up the questions, but I think he handled his very casual and business-like, not giving a hand in where his QB situation is. But going to Hugh Freeze. Now Hugh Freeze, this I think this was the first SEC media day that Auburn fans can actually hear a coach give out a lot of knowledge that we haven't heard. He was very, you know, in depth about what's going on at Auburn, like the QB room and the offensive schemes that are going to be schemed up, who's going to be playing, and who's going to be, calling plays. He did say that Philip Montgomery and him are going to devise up some kind of scheme where there'll be some of his plays and some of Montgomery plays.
Yeah, yeah. I heard that. I heard that too. And Hugh Freeze, yeah, we talk a lot of crap about Hugh Freeze as Bama fans because we got a history with him. But Hugh Freeze is one of the guys that I can say that for a while I was like reach out to Hugh Freeze to be our OC. I actually wanted him to be our Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze is a solid coach to me. Like we can talk all the crap we want to as Bama fans, but he is a solid coach and the programs he goes to, he turns the programs around. He turned them into winning programs, I can say. And this is what I'm gonna ask you. He was asked about when he left basically when the Ole Miss job, when he left the Ole Miss job, whatever got fired from it. Did he ever think he was gonna be back in the SEC? But I'm asking you, when Brian Harson's job came open, who was the guy that you was hoping to be a head coach? Was it him or anybody else out there?
I mean, when I first thought about it, I can tell you that, there's always them big fish things that they get thrown out there, and you know who throws them out there? Jimmy Sexton. He out there trying to help people get more, contract money, but you know, when the official reasonable list later on came out with Lane Kiffin, Hugh Freeze, Dan Lanning, I didn't want Lane Kiffin. I know what he's about. I don't think
Yeah,
he takes I don't think he takes SEC football too serious. I think maybe it's just because he's at Ole Miss that he don't, but he wasn't my first guy. I was willing to take Hugh Freeze at my second choice. So, and I was willing to take him right off the bat because I know everybody wanted Lane Kiffin. I wasn't on that train. I didn't even hop on that Lane train. But Hugh Freeze was my first guy, and then my second guy that I don't know if people really paid attention to, but they offered Dan Lanning before Hugh Freeze, and Dan Lanning turned it down. I don't. I don't think it's not wanting the job. I think it wasn't enough money he was given to come do the job. So my thinking was if Hugh Freeze turned it down, which I heard there was a possible if that would have happened, they would have circled back around to Dan Lanning and offered him probably a little bit more money than what Hugh Freeze is, making, which, Dan Lanning did put out one of the best defenses in the country to win a national championship, which was
Yeah.
Georgia's first national championship.
Hmm.
So I would have been okay with Dan Lanning as my second choice behind Hugh Freeze.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Hey, no, Dale McGee. He's an Auburn guy. Has he ever came up in the conversation for Auburn head coaching job or just a coaching job on staff?
Uh, from reading the tea leaves and hearing things, his name always comes up, but it's not something that's viable. I I think before Dale McGee gets into the SEC as a head coach, he's got to take a group of five job. A group
Yeah,
of five job can be Marshall, it could be UTSA. I mean there are plenty good G5 schools, but a running back coach and that sort, even like Cadillac won't get a big time job
yeah.
no matter how long he stays at Auburn. He's got to work his way up. So Dale McGee's name was always brought up, but it wasn't a viable, head coaching candidate. They weren't going to bring him in and interview him and really give him the serious
Yeah,
consideration, knowing that he doesn't have head coach, experience.
because this is my thing about Dale McGee. I was like, when people brought it to my attention, I'm like, because like I said, I'm from the area. He coached out here in Columbus High School at Carver High School. Columbus at Carver High School. And I was like, I don't know, like about a head coaching position. I said, but I really feel like Auburn. I don't know if they did or didn't, but they really should make a push for him at a coaching position there because what comes with Dale McGee is kids like Michael Williams, those guys. That's what comes with Dale McGee. Those some of these high profile kids in the area, the AJ Harris's maybe, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, that would be a good hire as a coaching, just a coach on the staff, running back or whatever it may be. But he would be good for Auburn, him being from Auburn. But that's what I was just wondering about that.
Oh yeah, I mean right now, Cadillac Williams is the prized jewel at Auburn. I know Hugh Freeze is the head coach, but one thing that kept Auburn glued together last year after that Brian Harson
Yes,
firing was Cadillac. He was put in a tough situation, and I think he handled it well. And going into that off season, I was hammering the point we got to keep Cadillac. I know eventually he's going to go off and be a head coach, but we got to keep him at least for another couple years.
yeah, that's fact. And I'm gonna tell you this, as a Bama fan, I didn't want Cadillac to get the head coaching job, and I'm gonna tell you the reason why. Because I'm like, this dude is so invested in Auburn. He loves Auburn. He loves being there. And if he goes there, if he end up getting a head coaching job, I'm like, and he don't do good, I said, man, you can ruin a strong relationship with somebody that loves being at Auburn, that loves the program, that's truly invested. That's why I didn't want him to get the job because I feel like Auburn, they can be kind of a little pushed that, like, Auburn is they a winning program, so they want to get back to winning fast. And if it didn't happen, I feel like it could have ruined the relationship between two people that truly love each other at this moment. The program and Cadillac.
Yeah, the thing about Cadillac is it's with any assistant coach. You may put them as a temporary, but you never want to put them as the next man up, especially if you don't have head coaching experience. And it's not that Cadillac won't be a great head coach. It's because there's so many unknowns. I'd rather see him go somewhere and be successful, and then maybe if that one day comes, he may come back to Auburn to be a head coach, but
Yeah,
at least we'll know that he's got head coaching experience and he was successful.
yeah, that's facts. Yeah, I didn't want that for him. I'm like, man, don't ruin that relationship. Don't ruin that relationship, please don't. Cause like I said, I'm a Bama fan, diehard Bama fan, but I love this college football stuff. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know most Bama fans be like Bama, Bama, Bama. Like I am too. Like when it's Saturday game time, I'm biased. I don't know what we're gonna kick your butt by 57 points, and I'll have no substance behind it. But after and before the fact, let's talk football. Let's talk the realness of it. But Hugh Freeze was asked about establishing the culture at Auburn again. And as a fan, what do you think he has to do to get this culture back up and running strong like the way it was?
He's got to get the people to believe. He's got to come out not just talking. Anybody can come out and talk and say the right things, but he's got to come out on this field this year and win the games that you're supposed to win. But when you play in Georgia, Bama, LSU, I know Ole Miss is going to be a game everybody's going to circle, but
Mm-hmm.
come out and compete with five-star recruits, five-star talent, and just don't get embarrassed on the field. When you have a season that could be 8-4 this year, that's where you can start building the foundation and getting people to trust in Auburn and believe in Auburn, which will set the culture back to where it was. So our culture was fractured because Gus did not recruit at a level that he was supposed to. He basically just cherry picked who he wanted by the stars and how he liked the stars and all that. He didn't really evaluate well at the end of his career at Auburn. And then Brian Harsin just came in, kicked his feet up, and thought, "Well, Auburn can recruit itself." No,
Mm-hmm.
this ain't Boise. So you're gonna have to get out here and you're gonna have to go into people's homes
Yeah,
and tell these parents, "This is why I want your son to come to Auburn." So that's what Hugh Freeze has got to do. He can come on the podium and talk, but now since SEC media days are over with for him, he's got to put it on the field. He's got to compete. He's got to show everybody that this relationship with Ron Roberts and Philip Montgomery is the right relationship and
yeah,
that they can actually put wins on the board.
yes. And I'm gonna tell you this. Go back to what you were saying about Jeff Stapleton. Thank you for tuning in, man. Thank you very much, man. But with Brian Harson, this is what I'm gonna say. Not a fan of the guy. When Auburn first hired him, I was like, hold on, what's going on? What happened? Auburn, this is what you do? And I was like, okay, whatever, let's see how it goes. But me as a Bama fan outside looking in, I was like, I don't really feel like Auburn fans really gave him a chance from the get go. Like, is that true? Like, what's up with that?
Well, I think he was given a short leash, and at Auburn, you're going to be given a short leash, and how you handle being on that short leash will determine how long you stay head coach. Brian Harson, he had talent. Okay, the talent when Gus left was still there. So him performing at a level that he did in his second year at Auburn was unacceptable. I mean, it was unacceptable. I mean, you go toe to toe Penn State, at Penn State, which is a gauntlet of a place to play at, especially at nighttime when they throw out the whiteout and everybody's swaying and it's just completely white. So that first year, we thought, okay, he's got talent, he's making the best of it. And then the second year, just your big games, you are getting throttled, you are getting manhandled. Penn State comes in your stadium, and by the third quarter, people are already leaving. They already emptying the stands. So it was it was bad when it started, and it just got worse during the season. And there was just no hope to retain him because there was going to be no didn't next year's going to be better. I don't think this year would have been any better if he was there. So I think it would have gotten worse. So just seeing how Auburn performed halfway during the season was basically the final straw of Auburn having to pull the plug on them because you struggled at Missouri, you barely won that game, and the games that you were favored by 7 to 10 points, you were barely winning or you were losing horribly. I mean, the Georgia game was a horrible loss. The Bama game, which if he was there, that would have probably been a horrible loss if he was there. The LSU game. I mean, there was games that if he would have coached, it would have it would have basically made it a lot worse. So when they did fire him and put Cadillac in, I think that was the right move. So he was given a chance. I mean, he can't say that there wasn't no talent there because there was talent because Auburn was always a top 12 recruiting class all the way up to Gus Malzahn's last year. So
Yeah, I agree to that, man. I agree. Like, yeah. So with that being said, how much time do you think they give Coach Hugh Freeze like to
they give
bring
him,
the program back?
they're going to give him his contract, his whole contract. I mean, if you look at what happened after Brian Harsin was fired, players were putting their names in the transfer portal.
Yep.
Even some good talented guys left because of Gus Malzahn was gone. So it was already starting to turn ugly. But flipping the roster that he did in the transfer portal is very good. When you look at a guy that who can flip the roster in 7 months, 6 months, like he has done, basically kind of reminds you of what Lincoln Riley did when he flipped the roster at USC. That's what the transfer portal is there for you to do, is to kind of go after the guys that you're not hitting on the recruit trail and flip that roster in your first and maybe even second year, which we could possibly be hitting heavy on the transfer portal in the second year, depending on how this recruiting class finishes. But I would say they give him at least the minimum 3 years.
Okay. Cause what you were just saying about the transfer portal, I looked at it when I watched all the spring games, and that day y'all came on, then Vanderbilt came on later that day, and I was like, just looking based off the spring games. Now don't get me wrong, it was raining really heavy down there in Auburn. I was like, if I had to pick today, I would pick Vanderbilt to beat Auburn. But after that game, when I started seeing the flip of that roster, the people he was bringing in, I'm like, yeah, I'll take that back really quick. I'll take that back really quick. So with that being said, who are some of the new players that y'all brought in, and which one are you most excited about?
I mean, there are some great names. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know Gunnar Britton.
Mm-hmm.
I know we got a couple more offensive linemen. So I mean, the offensive line is going to be very, very important because Auburn has always, done horrible on the offensive line year in and year out. But the wide receiver room is where I'm looking to possibly be the most interesting. And the one I'm kind of looking at is Jair Shorter. Then you got Nick Marner. Those two guys are big physical guys. Nick Marner 6'6". He's kind of that Seth Williams, Sammy Coates type of guy that'll go up in the red zone area, one handed over some DB. But like Jair Shorter, man, he's very shifty. I think somebody said that he was the leader in yards after catch, so that's good. So basically, I would say my two positions I'm looking at. It's kind of hard to name players, but offensive lineman, because I think we're going to start at least 3, 4 transfers on the offensive lineman, and then the wide receiver room, which is probably going to be at least two to three wide receivers from the transfer portal that are going to start, and including possibly Shane Hooks from Jacksonville State
Yeah.
or Jackson State,
Yeah.
where yeah, so he could possibly start. So basically, I'm just looking at the offensive line and the wide receivers, and them transfer guys are are being asked a tall task to step up this year and help Auburn win 8 games this year.
Okay. So we'll talk about the wide receivers and the O line. Uh, I mean, I can't remember names when I want to remember names. The quarterback room got Robbie Ashford returning, and who's the other guy? The freshman the freshman quarterback.
You talking about well, I know we got Robbie Ashford, we got Peyton Thorne,
Peyton
we
Thorne.
got
That's what I'm talking about. Yes.
yes, Peyton Thorne is the transfer guy who's supposed to start this year. So
Yeah, that's why I was asking who you think better quarterback for Auburn. Now, me personally, I think Peyton Thorne is that guy. But how do you feel about Robbie Ashford?
ooh, uh, you know, I was told this was by a trainer I talked to that trains the QBs and trains at Auburn once a month. He told me about a couple weeks ago he thinks Robbie Ashford is a good quarterback. Now, is he the best quarterback for Auburn in the SEC? Probably not, but can he be a decent, good quarterback in the SEC? Yes, but his best attribute and his skill is at baseball. So
Yeah,
for for Robbie Ashford, I think he's in a good spot at number two, being that backup. And I don't think he starts at Auburn. I really don't. I think, if Peyton Thorne comes back next year, you will see at least one to two quarterbacks transfer next year. So I think it's a make and break year for Robbie Ashford next year. This year he's going to have to sit on the bench as a second stringer, which is good for him because he can learn under somebody like Peyton Thorne who had a good season here and there at Michigan State. As long as they had a good running game, Michigan State and Peyton Thorne were hitting. Now, when Peyton Thorne didn't have a good running game, that's when they relied on Peyton Thorne too much. Well,
yeah.
at Auburn, we always have a good running game. So basically,
Mhm.
the running game is going to complement Peyton Thorne and make Peyton Thorne a good QB because he isn't going to get asked to throw it 40, 50 times a game.
That's right. That's exactly right. Start talking about this running game. Tank's biggest B is gone. Who's that guy in the backfield now?
Uh, it's going to be Jarquez Hunter,
I believe it.
uh, But with the situation, not knowing, if he's going to get suspended a game or two, not really knowing. I mean, I've asked plenty of insiders, and they're like, they haven't heard a word, so it's very hush hush. But even if he gets suspended a half or the first game against UMass, he's still going to be the starter. He's still going to be the workhorse. But you can also look for the second stringer, which might be Brian Battie. He came from USF. He was 1,000-yard rusher. So, and then you got the second guy that's supposed to be the second stringer as a workhorse. I'm trying to think of his name,
Yeah.
but Jarquez Hunter is going to be the guy. I think Jarquez Hunter can get at least about 800 yards easily.
Yeah, he ain't no slouch, man. Jacquees Hunter
Now,
is not a slouch.
no, he's not a slouch. Actually, I got family that actually knows him from Mississippi out there in Neshoba County, which is right outside of Jackson, Mississippi. My cousin, she's a nurse practitioner, or however you want to call them at the school. They're a school nurse, and she actually watched him and in high school football, talks to him, texts him, and just keeps in touch. So, and the second guy that I was talking about is Damari Austin. Now, Damari Austin is a guy who will take some reps from Jarquez because he's a bigger back too. I think he's a little bit bigger, but Damari Austin's going to be the second stringer. But the running back room is very, very loaded. Brian Battie from UCF, well, USF, I think he'll be more in the passing game because he's a lot quicker. He's a lot shiftier. He's not that every down back, big back. So I think you could see three running backs in a game for Auburn this year.
Okay. Okay. So another thing, he was asked about NIL. How do you think NIL affects the team chemistry? How do you feel about NIL? Period.
Uh, you know, it's very it's a very long answer, but I'll make it brief. NIL I think is a good thing. Players are getting paid
Hmm?
for service that if you look at it, football is a hard nose hitting sport, and
Yes.
you got to make sure that you're taking care of your players, and when you advertise and you doing all that, you're endorsing Auburn with their name. So of course you got to pay them for using their name, and that's why it's name, image, and likeness. So I mean, I agree with it. I think there needs to be some kind of uh, I guess tipping scale where this amount of money needs to go to this player and this amount of money needs to go to this player. Right now it's like free agency. It's high.
Yeah.
It's the highest bidder gets whoever. Like the Cam Coleman situation. I don't know if you heard, but he was offered about $1.1 million from
Yeah.
A&M.
I'm gonna
So
tell you my thing about NIL. I had no problem with it. I don't care for paying giving these kids money straight up out of high school to make a college decision. Like it's not like you said, it's name, image, and likeness. I feel like we need to get in college, create a name, image, and likeness. Then you start getting these endorsement deals or the collectives come do what they do. But that's the only part I don't like about it is we swaying these kids to make a money decision instead of a real true decision on where do I want to go further my education and where do I truly really want to go play at because we seen it with Texas A&M. A lot of guys, them guys took their money and it ended up being a really bad thing for Texas A&M program last season.
oh yeah, I told I I mentioned that to that guy named Jay Pross about A&M player taking the money and run, and then next year
Yeah,
they're putting their name in the transfer portal. But A&M, like he did say, A&M's got money that they can just throw at any player if they want them. But eventually that's gonna hurt you. I had Dave Uwe on a couple weeks ago, and he made a good point about NIL and how families are handling this. He said when his son Mateo Uyangale made a choice to go to Oregon, it wasn't because of NIL. He made
yeah,
sure that his son knew that NIL doesn't need to be your focus, that you will get paid one way or another.
no, yep,
He went to Oregon because of Kayvon Thibodeau. Kayvon was a first round top five draft pick
freak,
to the New York Giants. So that's what sold Mateo. It wasn't the NIL, he said. He teaches kids and these families that if you chase the bag, you're going to hurt your kids, opportunity of going to a school that fits them. Like some of these kids going to A&M, some of them kids don't fit there,
no,
and they see it that they take the money, they play 1 year, and then they hit the transfer portal and go to a school that will that will be there to take them and possibly develop them better or put them in a spot where they need to. So A&M is a bright spot where you can look and say taking the money right off the bat is not a good decision.
yeah, I agree with that, man. I'm like, cause man, there was a lot of talented kids in that club, like the dude Denver Harris. Like, come on, man. Like, yeah, bad decisions. And just to let you know too, overall, man, I'm gonna tell you my favorite Auburn player of all time. Jonathan Wallace. Remember him?
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember Jonathan Wallace.
Yeah, that's my first cousin, man. That's why I said that. That's my first cousin, man. But
Well, yeah, my favorite all time player at Auburn is kind of two of them. It's Ronnie Brown and Cadillac Williams, man.
them dude, man. Listen, that year I was like, as a Bama fan, I said, nah, that's supposed to be played in the national championship year that year. I'm like, as a
Yeah.
Bama fan, I'm like, that sucked. That was not right. That was not right at all.
Oh yeah, most definitely. You know, it kind of showed that the playoffs is where it needs to be because when you rely on a computer system to do all these algorithms and all this,
Yeah,
you gonna get it wrong. There's that team like Auburn that should have been there that would have probably gave USC. I don't know if we would have beat USC, but I would have liked our chances of beating USC over OU because OU couldn't even stop a cold.
no, they could not. That yes. So what are you expecting from your defense this year, man?
Uh, with Ron Roberts and how he runs this defense, it's a lot different than what we're kind of used to. We're gonna run it's gonna be a three down lineman, three linebacker set, and probably first down to second down, then about maybe second and short to third down, you'll see a 4-2-5. So, it's a 4-2-5 and a 3-3, kind of defensive scheme. But, with the players that we have, like Keldrick Falk, I mean, we got the Kentucky transfer. We got Jason Jones, who we got in the previous year of the transfer portal. He's coming back this year. I mean, and a lot of transfers in the linebacker room. I think our defense can be at least, I would say, top 20 defense in the country. I would say top 20. I don't want to say top 10 or top 15. I would say between 15 and 20 overall. Now, could they get close to top 15 and above? They could, but uh, there's a lot of chemistry pieces that need to be put together, especially with all these transfers. So I would say top 20, in which that could get us 8 wins.
Okay. Hey, so this is one quick question about Bama. We as Bama fans, we're happy with Kevin Steele. Well, I'm happy with Kevin Steele because Kevin Steele was there multiple times before. What do you think about the Kevin Steele hired Bama? Because he was an Auburn guy, and when he was at Auburn, that he had that defense going.
You know, I've said this on a couple of spaces. I would take Kevin Steele right now over Ron Roberts because I know what Kevin Steele brings to the table. I know what he can do. If he's given the opportunity to get his guys, in which in the SEC you can get them guys. It's just getting them to sign. But a school like Auburn, where not every year, but every other year there was that year where it was a learning curve for the new guys, and then after that, it went right back up. But I would have taken him over Ron Roberts. So I think the hire at Bama was a great one because he knows the system. He knows what Nick Saban's all about. He knows that uh, he can only worry about. And I can tell you this: Kevin Steele ain't gonna worry about a secondary. He ain't gonna touch it. He didn't touch it at Auburn. He didn't care about teaching the secondary. He left that to the secondary coaches and all that. But that front seven, that D line and them linebackers, that's going to be a big improvement for Alabama because you're going to see a lot more aggression. You ain't going to see no dropbacks every time and all that. You're going to see a linebacker or two or maybe even three come and blitz and put some pressure on a QB and maybe even lay them down. So, having Kevin Steele back into the SEC at a school like Bama, that is dangerous. That is very dangerous. I know many Auburn fans ain't gonna say that, but I will because now he's got better talent than what he had at Auburn, which is even more dangerous. I mean, he had some great players at Auburn, they weren't all 5 stars, but he made them into 5 stars.
Yeah.
So, and now you got guys that are already top 10 at their position levels just stacked at Bama. So it's going to be very, very dangerous for a offense when they're, let's just say, second and 15. Oh, man, he's going to be pinning
Oh.
them ears back and coming after y'all.
And that's what like I don't mean to keep talk about them long because this Auburn, but that's what
Yeah,
I was telling people. I was telling people about that because of course all these fan bases, oh you got an old shoe and Kevin Steele. Come on, man, like take the fanboy out of it and thinking of it as a real football scheme. Then look back at Miami, what he did at Miami, and I tell people, I said I don't care. Kirby Smart wouldn't have turned that Miami defense around last season. He would have eventually turned it around, but
yeah,
not last season. Miami, because when people talk about Miami, they think about the U. They think
yeah.
about Ray Lewis. They think about all those guys. That is not Miami no more. That
No,
that school is down in the dumps bad. Nobody would have
yeah.
turned that around last season.
Well, see, I talked to a guy. His name is Alex Duno, but he does the Locked On channel for Miami Canes. And I had a big space with him about a week or so ago, and he had to actually, I didn't know, but at the same time, there was a guy that played on the Miami team back in the, I think, late 80s, early 90s. And, they don't default. I mean, they don't fault Kevin Steele. They'll they say it wasn't his fault for how that defense was. It was just he wasn't given the time. He wasn't there long enough to build up that defense. And what he took over was basically a trash roster on
Yeah,
defense.
cause
So, saying that year that they lost to Middle Tennessee and all that, Miami fans don't fault him for that. It's just fans outside of Miami
yeah,
that fault him for it. But if you ask the real Miami fans, they, they actually hated seeing him go back to Bama. They would have wished that he would have stayed because they knew what they had in a coach, but it was give him time and get his people in there. But like he told me that night, when Bama comes a calling and wants you back, it's kind of hard to turn that down.
yeah. That's what I tell. I try to tell. But I said, because me, I really truly try my best to take the fanboy out of it. And when I'm being fanboy, I'll let you know. Yes, my decision right now might be fanboys, but I'm like, take the fanboys out of it and let's look at it from a football standpoint for real, seriously. And because I'm just that Auburn defense. I remember him at Auburn. I remember him at Alabama too. He helped develop some dudes early on in that process. Like before he came back as a linebacker coach, when Saban first came with that, he helped develop some big time dudes. Helped develop some guys to be big time dudes then. But so yes, that Kevin Steele is gonna be key because I tell people he focuses on the front seven. Tavares Robinson is gonna have his hands on that secondary. I said he's not like you just said. He doesn't care about that. So he's gonna focus on the front seven, and you will see a lot of Bama fans. A lot of people ask questions about Freddie Roach. Is he really that guy? I said you're gonna see a lot better Freddie Roach because he's a good coach because Kevin Steele's defensive scheme is gonna allow him to be able to be a good D line coach.
Exactly, most definitely. Uh, the previous DC, man, I don't know what his schematics was, but that was not the scheme that Freddie Roach and them are accustomed to. This
No,
what Kevin Steele bringing. He's bringing aggression. He's bringing toughness. He's bringing hard nose hitting, and that's what you want from defensive linemen. You don't want defensive linemen to drop back 5 yards and try to
no,
play coverage. That's why you got linebackers and free safeties and cornerbacks. I mean, that's what they're for. But D linemen and edge rushers should be coming after the QB or getting a tackle in the backfield, not trying to play pass coverage.
yes, exactly. So Hugh Freeze back in the SEC. This Iron Bowl thing it just got back hot. Like I don't care he hasn't coached the game yet at Auburn, but this makes the Iron Bowl much more interesting, man. Interesting. And like I Oh, what happened? What happened? What happened? Hope he joined back. But yes, with Hugh Freeze being back in the SEC, this makes it much more interesting. And okay, he's back. Yes, sir.
Sorry about that, man. Sorry about that.
That's all right, Doc. But man, what you think about this Hugh Freeze and this Iron Bowl situation? Because the Bell fan, we coming down to Auburn this year, and I hate coming to Auburn because God dang it, I don't know what the heck y'all got going on down there. But God dang it, some voodoo crap going on there. When we come down there, and it's always a hard fought game. Even when Brian Harsin first year was there, it was like honestly, that Auburn team didn't like y'all shouldn't have stand a chance, but TJ Finley was hobbling around. He was making to do what he do. So Hugh Freeze in this Iron Bowl, man. What's your thoughts this season about it?
Man, it's gonna be a tough rivalry. It always is, because one thing about the Iron Bowl is you're playing players that played against each other in high school that are friends,
Mm-hmm.
cousins, brothers. I mean, there's that's why the Iron Bowl is. Some people say it's the best. Some people say it's the second best. However, you want to view the Michigan and Ohio State one too, because I think those two are kind of head to head, in being the best rivalries overall. But when you talk about rivalries like the Auburn and Bama, I mean these are in-state players, so
Yes.
there's a lot of family ties, and it just makes it a lot more interesting for this rivalry. But this season, when y'all come to Jordan Hare, you should get a good offense going. Now, I don't think we'll have an explosive offense yet, but I think it'll be a offense that can score points. I don't know how that Kevin Steele defense going to look by then. It might be damn scary, but I think this is going to be a hard nosed hitting rivalry this year, a lot more difficult to kind of predict than last year, because if these transfers and their chemistry come together and Peyton Thorne comes together, I mean, this could be a team that could upset a team that they shouldn't be upsetting, but they will. I mean, it could be LSU, it could be Georgia, or it could be Bama. Those three teams all when they play Auburn need to kind of watch out, because Hugh Freeze has nothing to lose this year, because
No.
he's got players that are not his players, so he's going to throw the kitchen sink and everything he's got at these three teams. And this Iron Bowl, if he doesn't get Georgia or LSU, he's going to circle that Iron Bowl as a game where, this is the last game. I got to get one big win. And,
Yes.
the Iron Bowl might be one for all the ages.
Yes. I can see. I can see. Yes, I can see it because, like I said, oh my God, I don't know what goes on down there. But let's be and say talk about recruiting. Oh, here I go. Can't remember names again. But y'all pushing real hard for the Bama commit wide receiver guy, 5-star guy,
Perry Thompson.
Tom Perry Thompson. Yes. What? Why are y'all chances on flipping him? Because me, I think he really is on flip watch.
Uh, having him at Big Cat,
Hmm.
if he comes through, and he comes through, which they're expecting him, will be huge.
Yes.
I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think he flips until sometime during the season. I think he's one of them guys that he wants to see the product on the field. He wants to see what the offense is going to look like.
Yeah.
You can bring him on campus and show him some practice highlights how this offense looks, but it ain't it ain't the real deal. He's
Yeah.
one of them type of guys. He wants to see the real deal. So I think he stays committed to Bama, and until one of these games he comes to. I don't know which game he's going to come to. That's not been said, but it could be the. I'm trying to sit here and think right quick. It could be the Ole Miss game because we have them at home. Uh, I don't think he would travel far to watch Auburn, so it would have to be a home big game for Auburn. So It might be the Bama game, might be the Ole Miss game. One of them two, he might come to, and I don't know who Bama plays on them weeks. I know y'all play the Iron Bowl with us, but I don't know what week y'all play when we play Ole Miss because we host Ole Miss. So he might sneak into that Ole Miss game, and if Bama has a struggling week and he sees what y'all doing and he may not like what y'all doing and we come out and we blow Ole Miss out, then he might flip then. I mean, it's kind of a wait and see for him, but in the chances, I think it's 50-50. I've
Yeah,
heard from different scouts, from recruit services, they all saying that they think he lands in the Auburn class, but just don't know when.
yeah. Like I said, me paying attention to it closely, I really seriously believe he is on flip watch. I know some of the Bama fans saying that yeah, he just blowing smoke, whatever. I'm like, nah, I don't think he blowing no smoke. I believe this is a serious thing that we need to watch out for. And
And then
another
and
guy,
then the second guy is DeMarcus Riddick.
yeah, that's what I was just about to bring up. That's what I was just about to bring up.
You know, uh, I'm not 100% sure if he's going to be a big cat, but he's one of those not too far away kids that's considered a home because it's on Auburn side of I-65, so it's considered like a home kid, not too far from Auburn, but he's not gonna land at Georgia and sign. He's it's already been said he will go to either Alabama or Auburn, but he's one of those kids too, just like Perry. I don't think he flips in the summertime. I think you'll see him flip during the regular season. He's one of those guys that's definitely going to start. I mean,
Yeah,
I've heard many folks say that he's better than Sammy Brown, who's considered the number one linebacker or top three linebacker in the country. But he's a big physical dominant specimen at linebacker, and that's how I was told about him. He's a big physical dominant specimen, and depending on what Kevin Steele does with his linebackers and what Ron Roberts does with his linebackers, it's going to be who does the best with their linebackers that will probably sway his commitment. But if I had to say right now, I think he lands at Bama right now because of
yeah.
Kevin Steele and what he's done with linebackers in the past. But if Auburn shows that their transfer linebackers play well and play dominant, he could easily also land at Auburn too.
And that's what I was telling my guy. My guy Roll Tide Rise Up. I do a show. We do a show together. And I was telling him, I said, honestly, I think DeMarcus Riddick is coming to Bama. I said, I know for a fact, he's not going to Georgia. I said, but I would be surprised, but also wouldn't be surprised if he picks up Auburn, had to go to Auburn. That's my opinion. But I think DeMarcus Riddick is a Bama guy as well. Here he goes.
Daggone thing gets touchy, but yeah, I think DeMarcus Riddick goes to Bama right now.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too as well. I think so too as well. But before we wrap this up, we ain't gotta go through the season, the schedule and nothing long. But what's your overall record prediction? Bad or bad? Give me your best case scenario and your worst case scenario.
I think uh, I think for the best scenario for Auburn would be 8-4. I think 8-4 is the best. Now the worst case scenario for Auburn would be probably 6-6 if things don't get clicking and there's some problems going on. But I would say 8-4 is the best. I would put that as the high mark benchmark. That if we get 8-4 this year, things will be really rolling at Auburn.
Oh yes, you cooking with hot grease. You cooking with hot grease at 8-4. 8-4. Yeah, I can see that. 6-6, the worst. Yeah, I can see that. But 8-4, that is definitely you on to something. You on to something. It's a program that's in the process of coming up. If they can pull up 8-4, and Hugh Freeze's first year as a head coach, that'll be big time. Hey, put your glasses on. You see. Hey man, I appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. I appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. Thank y'all for coming in. I see y'all fighting down there in the chat room. Jay Sykes, what's going on? Stephen Hicks, my guy, what's going on? What's going on? Let me see if you're gonna come back on. Tony B, appreciate you for coming in. Jeff Stapleton, my guy, he always tuning in. He always tuning in. Let's see if he come back in. I don't know if he's coming back in, but it keeps kicking him off for some reason. Uh, Jay, put your glass on. You see it? Hey Jay, I'm gonna let you know, man. The Dogs gonna lose 2 games this season. I'm just playing. I don't know. I can't predict them 2 games. I can't predict them 2 games. But make sure y'all, if y'all got a Twitter account, man, make sure y'all go follow my guy Jeremy on Twitter. Make sure y'all go follow him on Twitter. He does a lot of great content on Twitter. A lot of great content on Twitter, man. Like he has some good reliable sources on. He has some commits that come through his Twitter spaces and talk that commit just talk football. Like I love his work, man. I like what he does on Twitter. I reach out to him on Twitter, and he does great things, man. He does great things. I'm gonna see if he's gonna come back. Give him a few more minutes before we end the show. But yeah, man, I think we learned a lot. Some good stuff about Auburn coming off in the media days going into the season. I think Auburn could be that team to surprise a couple of people. Of course, as a Bama fan, I don't think they're gonna beat us, but hey, you know how it is coming down that going down to Auburn as well, playing down there. Um, it can go any way because every time we go down to Auburn play, I don't know, they're making the game somehow. And with Hugh Freeze back, nah, man, y'all doing what fans do, man. Y'all doing what fans do, argue back and forth. Hey, I ain't upset with it, man. I appreciate you for always tuning in, though, trolling us. But yeah, man. Hey, thank y'all for tuning in this far. I'm gonna go ahead and end the show. I don't see my guy popping back up in. So appreciate y'all for tuning in. Let me know in the comments what y'all feel about this, man. And Jay Sykes, roll tide, my guy. Thank y'all for tuning in. Yes, sir. Roll tide, rise up. I see you. Roll tide, baby. Roll tide. Tony B, Tony B. Mildew knows he is the best running back, huh? You so funny. Becky's a quarterback. He might be. He might be. Yeah, Georgia schedule too. You crazy. But hey, y'all, I'm about to get up out of here, man. Thank y'all for tuning in. Roll Tide, and I'm out.